Nico Steves here, and I want to announce that if you've signed up for the newsletter, you're going to see the cover from the upcoming book, the softcover version of The Very Fine Light. So stay tuned today, and we'll see you soon. I'm happy to report that work is going very well on finalizing the new audio and printed versions of my recently published novel, The Very Fine Light, which has been available, but only as an ebook, on Amazon.com. These new formats are coming along for release just in time for the Christmas season. Coming up starting next week, I'll be having segments from the audiobook version in each episode, as well as, if you've signed up for the newsletter, you're going to see the cover from the upcoming print version of The Very Fine Light. So don't forget to put your name on my mailing list at nicosteves.com in order to get even more advanced information on the upcoming audiobook and print version of The Very Fine Light. Saint Theodore of Tarsus became the Archbishop of Canterbury in England, and Saint Egwin, Bishop of Worcester, both lived during the 7th century in England. These two saints lived in England during a time when all Christian churches were united as one body of Christ. The Virgin Mary appeared to Saint Egwin with a request. Now, Saint Theodore was Greek and born in the year 602 in Tarsus, home of St. Paul. He was highly educated, and his upbringing found him studying in Constantinople and then on to Rome to further his education. While there, he joined a community of monks and quickly advanced through all the clerical ranks. Around the year 665, there was a need to replace the archbishop in England due to the plague which had devastated many of the bishops in the various churches in all the kingdoms of England. Consequently, the worship there began to deviate a bit from the established practices of the Christian church. Though not a first choice, Theodore, almost 70 years old, came highly recommended and arrived in Canterbury in 669. St. Theodore became the 8th Archbishop of Canterbury and served for 22 years from 668 to 690. He had two others to accompany him, St. Dominic Biscop and Adrian the African. They would help him maintain the Orthodox administration that was disrupted by the loss of the priests and bishops. St. Theodore was energized by his mission and toured throughout England, learning about the English church and subsequently filling positions in these churches so they would not falter without bishops to replace those deceased. He worked to bring various communities back into uniform practices. St. Theodore also wanted to establish a school in Canterbury to train Christians from both the Celtic and Roman traditions to help unite the two groups. To make all this happen, he held a meeting gathering all the clergy into what was called the Council of Hertford in 672. One of the first orders by the new archbishop was to establish the metropolitan status to the See of Canterbury. This council meeting of churchmen was the first creation of a parliament, 150 years before the kingdoms of England became unified and created a government parliament of their own. St. Theodore bid that these types of councils were to happen yearly and to be held on August 1st of each year with assemblies of bishops and, if possible, the king and chief men of the kingdom. According to Bebe the Venerable, who was alive at the same time, St. Theodore was, quote, the first archbishop obeyed by all the English church, unquote. These new councils, called Councils of Clovisho, were held for over 150 years. Ironically, there had been no records before the year 742. The other saint, Saint Egwin, in this podcast, was known as Bishop Egwin of Worcester around those times. Worcester and Canterbury were brought together during those councils. Now, Saint Egwin was born in Worcester and grew up there. He came from royalty and was schooled as a Benedictine monk. He was popular among those and well-liked, and though before he became a bishop, Saint Egwin had popular support, but his strict adherence to the sanctity of Christian marriage, among other doctrines, proved unpopular with the slowly changing pagan ritual beliefs, to the point where he had to leave and make a pilgrimage to Rome in order to seek vindication. Fortunately, he was vindicated, and upon his return to Worcester, a herdman named Ulfs reported seeing an apparition of the Virgin Mary while tending a herd of swine in Evesham. This area was quite familiar to Saint Egwin, as he had prayed there before, and he believed there was already on the spot in the underbrush an ancient church. Saint Egwin had a similar experience to his herdsman the next day. Upon entering the area, he suddenly saw the Madonna surrounded by angels. She had a cross in her right hand and some sort of a book in her other. The Virgin Mary made it known to Egwin that she wished for a monastery to be built at this location. Saint Egwin, acting as the Bishop of Worcester, had the Evesham Abbey built around 707 AD under the patronage of the Virgin Mary, and he had a monastic order established in that place. It was a magnificent structure, over 300 feet high. It became one of the three most famous Benedictine monasteries in medieval England. Saint Egwin soon abandoned his interest in worldly manners and resigned his bishop's see, and became the abbot of the monastery. He died at the abbey around 717 AD. Following his death, many miracles were attributed to Saint Egwin's intercession. During the dissolution of the monasteries by Henry VIII in the 16th century, the Evesham Abbey was ransacked and pillaged. It then became a stone quarry for the neighboring communities. Only the bell tower now survives, although today the Evesham Abbey Trust has been established to protect and conserve the remains in its history for future generations. My new book, The Very Fine Light, is available on Amazon.com. Please feel free to contact me at nikossteves.com. That's Nikos Steves, Steves.com. If you like this episode, and for more, share them with friends, and consider William J. Walsh's book, Heaven's Bright Queen, Apparitions and Shrines of Heaven's Bright Queen. Well, this is Nikos Steves. Thank you. See you next time.